Are you looking for quality, handcrafted, one-of-a-kind, unique items? Look no farther than Off the Square Artisans. We have over 40 artists ranging from woodworking to blacksmithing, photography, rug weaving, handmade soaps, and everything in between. If you're looking for home decor or a gift for that hard-to-shop-for friend or family member, come on in to Off the Square Artisans, located at 205 East High Street, 1 block east off the south side of the Rockville Square. Wednesday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Sundays, 1 to 5 p.m.
I've got 4 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order. Start with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will not approve the minutes for 7/17. I wasn't here, and we can executive session for 7/26/24.
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes for the executive session of July 26th of 23.
And I'll second that. Now we have
Here,
2 payrolls.
well, 3.
Oh, okay.
You need a hospital.
Yeah. So we have the regular payroll 7/31 of $219,342.52. One for 8/14 to 23 for $218,445.59, and Union Hospital Security for $2,877.85.
I'll make a motion we approve the 3 payrolls that you just mentioned for July 31st, August 14th, and the Union Hospital Security.
And second that. All in favor, aye.
All right.
Okay, now we need to acknowledge the receipt of the payroll claims, accounts payable, in the amount of $370,024.09.
I'll make a motion we acknowledge the receipt of payroll claims accounts payable of $370,024.09.
And I'll second that. Three here, and I don't want you to have it.
That's all right.
Do them all.
Get them all done at the same time, but you can pass you the other one.
Let me just see.
It's a big one, gentlemen.
Oh, yes, it is.
So in your, this paper, I highlighted anything that was more than 50,000. We paid, of course, the 2 courthouse renovation payments were made. There was from the redevelopment commission, another $220-some thousand on the 41 project that came from TIF money. Parke County aggregates for $264,000.
Blacktop.
Yeah. Let's see. And there's several of them for 20 and 30,000. I mean, there's
Vomac truck.
Vomac was 228,000. Yeah. So
Hamilton Center.
that time of year.
Okay, we need to approve accounts payable claims in the amount of $1,530,110.84.
I'll make a motion, we do that.
I'll second.
I still remember the first time I typed $1 million check.
Now we have an out-of-cycle check for Deer Credit. I take it that's on the graders
Looks like it.
for $168,336.20.
Yep.
I'm sure that's what it's for. Do you have anything else, John Deere? So
Yes.
I'll make a motion, we approve the out-of-cycle check to Deere Credit for $168,336.20.
And I'll second that. Okay, payment on the ambulance. What's the story on that?
We have it resolved. They've agreed to deduct out the parts that they weren't entitled to either
That
do
they didn't finish or
or...
wasn't on there?
Right. As you know, there were disputed fees there. Some of the work they hadn't done and other parts they did but weren't requested to do.
Okay.
So we're just waiting on an updated invoice from them with the amount deducted.
Okay, so will it'll just let it ride and it'll be at next meeting?
Yeah, I messaged their attorney back and just asked them to send an invoice. So far, Julie nor I have received it, so.
Okay.
So until they send an invoice, they're
All right.
paid. So.
That's resolved. You have any
But I
other?
did see the letter you sent out
Yeah.
that they at least have agreed that.
In writing, yeah. So it's resolved pending them sending
They're
it.
just sending the invoice in for us.
Yep.
You have any other new business for us?
Not any new business.
Any old?
We've got this public health thing to do. We had talked about it previously, but during this last legislative session, there was a law that passed that changes the way the health departments are operating and the ability to get additional services from the state health but one of the things you have to do is that the counties have to decide that they're going to get in it. It's not mandatory or it's not required. And the last I heard from the governor's office, I believe 61 of the 92 counties had already done and something to that effect. And I think we've all agreed that it'd be a good thing for us. We just have to go through the paperwork of doing this resolution, and then we'll contact the governor's office that we're opting in. So with that being said, Nick has drafted up a resolution. It's number 6. And so I guess I make a motion that we pass resolution number 6 that will accept us into the state public health funding.
And I'll second that.
This is the only copy.
Yeah, that's the only one.
We'll just
Yeah.
sign that one. Is that all right?
Yep.
You have the formal name of that program?
I don't know if there is a formal name to it.
On here, it's just a resolution that we're accepting the state public health funding. We made some changes to it, and
I'll get this to you.
It's a statute. It's an Indiana statute, so I'm not sure if there is an actual title to it or.
okay. Any other old business?
I think that was a couple things for Randy when he gets here.
Okay, since Randy's not here, let's just skip over him and Chris O'Brien, he's on here. Do you know if he had anything going or not, Cindy?
I could ask him, he's here.
Okay, please.
He does not.
Okay. Jason, you're up.
Thank you. Today's jail count 74. County inmates 59. DOC inmates are 8. Other county holds are 7. And year-to-date inmate billing for housing, $165,879. Report of collections thus far, $61,363.87.
Feel like everything's pretty well balanced out with the extra holds you have? You think you'll probably maintain about what you have? And everybody about got their jails done?
Yeah, I think everybody around us has new jails, so I don't know how that's going to
affect us.
I think Vigo County's still letting, other counties hold their inmates here and there. Because you got to stay around 85% or 80%. But I just saw Sullivan County's getting a new jail where a lot of our inmates are from.
Are they?
I didn't realize they were building a new jail until recently. So I'm sure we could still stay around that number.
Sounds good.
Did I see that you had an opening for
Yeah.
deputy?
Yeah, Sean Clover put his 2-month notice in. Into September will be his, which we kind of knew it was coming. It's been a process for the whole year.
Is it difficult to try to find qualified people to,
Yeah.
people who have gone through either the academy or a lot of them need to go through, or?
Obviously, that's crucial and a big bonus they have the academy, but we're taking the applications this whole month, so we'll see how it goes.
Hopefully we'll get
But
somebody.
people aren't lining up like they used to.
That's what I wondered if it was, well, it's that way with anywhere.
Right.
It's hard to find people that'll work for any job, let alone
That's true.
in law enforcement, which has gotten really difficult over the last few years with all this, so good luck with that.
Thank you.
If you need help from us, let us know.
Appreciate
Julie?
it.
Do you guys have a copy of my report?
Yeah, it's,
So we had 138 responses in July, 130 of those resulted in patient transports. The collections is actually wrong, it's 375,000, not 336,000 for the year. Our collections for this month were down a little bit more than normal. We're still, I think we're at 19,000 ahead of 2022 collections now instead of 21,000. We do still have 180 outstanding accounts totaling $104,000. Large majority of those are from actually newer billings. We had 19 accounts that went to collections for non-payment this month, and we had 3 accounts that went to litigation. 19 is kind of a high number, but we've been seeing that over the last couple of months increase, and you'll know why I'm pointing that out when I get to the end of this. But having an increase in collections and a reduction in your revenue is never a good thing when you're outsourcing your billing, so I've been kind of watching that closely. We did get the metal roof resheeted on our building, so they finished that, and then they dented the ridge cap because they had to take it off. So now we're waiting for a new ridge cap to come in, and when that is on, our building will be complete. That's, I think, supposed to be here on Wednesday. So we'll get the last invoice for Major Enterprises for the building part. If you guys want to come and do a walkthrough and make sure that you're happy with everything before we actually pay that last invoice. Right now, it's just a holdback until job completion. I did do a final walkthrough with them. I've requested one change, and they are coming. There's a bathroom that they messed up the ceiling, and they're coming to fix that. So that's already on their agenda. But as far as I can tell, everything else in the building is complete. So I updated. I did get a response from the insurance regarding our second content submission. They approved that today, so I should get a check for that probably late this week. I'll have one more content submission. Once I get that check, I have one more round of small things now that we have all of our ambulances back in service that I need to get, and then we'll be done with the insurance claim. So I wanted to be done by June, but it's close. We do have a full-time position open. Marty Engel left our staff, so we posted his position on the 31st. Just before I walked in here, I actually received my 11th application for his position, so we closed that job opening on Friday, and we'll start doing interviews the next week. I also need to request, we have Medline, which is one of our medical billing companies or medical supply companies that we order from. I need to request that we do out-of-cycle checks for them. So they've gone with a new agency that takes care of their billing. And before, they would always take our interest charges and things off because we're government. They refuse to do that now. And so they're a lot like AT&T. If we don't pay the bill when it's due, even though they send it to us the day after a claim cycle ends, they still want to charge us the interest fees for late payment. So I would like to request out-of-cycle checks for them from now on, if I can, please.
The only thing on that, would you mind, it's been a while since I've looked at that statute. But that statute's fairly specific, I think, on what you can do and what you can't do. I know utility bills, insurance,
Postage.
taxes,
Postage.
but I'm not sure about, I don't have any problem, don't get me wrong, we don't want to pay interest, we don't want to pay, but we also got this law we have to deal with, so if Nick can just double check
That's fine.
that would fit into being able to do that.
I haven't looked at that in a long time
Like I
either.
said, I haven't looked at
But-
statute for quite a while.
And I suggested that she request it, and I probably should have looked at that first.
No,
but
no, that's okay.
Been a while.
Just-
And then last but not least, our current billing company. So we outsourced our billing in 2018. We signed a 5-year contract with them, and I think it was March of 2018. So in March, our contract was up, but it becomes a year-to-year after that. And like I was saying earlier, I've kind of noticed that our collections rates are going higher and our revenues are going lower, and we've had some issues. So Heather has actually had to go through and make a spreadsheet of the accounts that seem to fall through the cracks with our billing company. And it's usually any account that is atypical. So if it's not Medicare, Medicaid, or an easy insurance to track down, it falls through the cracks because they don't follow up. And at first they were really good about getting back with us and making sure those accounts were caught up, and lately they haven't been. So when I reached out to them to find out what was going on and why they were falling behind on so many accounts, they said that we shouldn't have to have somebody within our agency that worries about billing, and we should just let them handle it all and not do anything, and then told us that we did too much work and perhaps we should take our billing back in-house because they did not like the transparency that we requested. And then they fired us. So I have a termination agreement that I took to Nick. They did agree, after I talked to them, they did agree to terminate our contract, our year-to-year contract, and then I did find another agency that came highly recommended by a lot of our surrounding counties that use them. And as far as I could tell, their contract was very close to the one that we already had signed with the initial company. So I would like to request, Nick will have to tell you how the contracts look because I don't speak legalese very well, but I would like to request that we let go of our contract with Acumed, the first billing company, and sign a new contract with 911 Billing. They're out of Madisonville, Kentucky.
Seemed like when I remember when we first started dealing with them, they were doing excellent. Just
Yeah, I mean, our revenues really increased, more than doubled from what they were before, but the problem is they're out of Michigan, and they really like to focus on the big cities, so they bill for like Detroit Fire and a lot of the big cities, and the more they send out, the more money they get. And so they really like the big cities because it's easy money for them. We're only generating 1,600 or 1,700 runs a year, and they're having to track down a quarter of them, and they don't like that.
I understand.
Nick? All right,
He's multitasking.
he is.
Sorry, I
He's
was
looking up that law that
I was hoping to give him an easy answer on
Oh, I'm
that,
sorry.
but it's okay.
Did you review the contracts, and how do you feel about them?
Can you pass that pending final review?
Oh, yeah.
I need to look at it again, because there was something in that I wanted to look at, but
Yeah, that's not a problem.
I don't want to hold her up too long, but if you guys could just authorize it pending legal counsel review. We do need to talk about the termination of the other part, though. You and I do.
The termination of the first company?
Right.
Okay,
I just didn't get a chance to call you today, so.
okay.
um,
So what are we doing?
They're gonna
Hold
approve,
both of them?
they're gonna approve the new contract to be signed pending legal counsel review.
And then somebody can just, one of us or Jim or whoever's around can just stop and sign it. So
What
don't
about
hold
the
you up for
donation?
too
When does Jim get back?
Yes, we do.
I think, yeah, the weekend, so he'll be back by Monday and if it don't happen,
He's
it's,
gonna be around town.
it only needs, I think probably only needs one signature, so Bruce or I, either one can stop and sign it for you.
Motion.
So if you're okay with that, then we'll just go ahead and make a motion. I'll make a motion. What's the name of the second company? Did you say?
911 billing.
911 billing. I'll make a motion, we approve the contract with 911 billing for the new billing services for the ambulance service pending final approval by our attorney.
And I'll second that.
And what about the termination?
Same thing.
You want to go ahead? You're comfortable with going ahead and doing that? You just said you need to talk to her, but I didn't know.
Yeah, just pending final approval, but there was a part in that I wanted to talk to her about.
I have a feeling I already know what it is, since I even caught it. So the termination will be with Acumet billing.
Okay, so then I'll make another motion that we accept the termination with AccuPed, you said it, medical, and terminate the agreement that we've had with them for billing up to this point.
Pending
Nick's
recommendation.
final recommendation, that's
And I'll
correct.
second that. All right, I think we're jumping back to Randy. I think I seen him sneak in, didn't he?
It's hiding.
Is there a dead, Julie, is there a date that termination ends, or is it kind of open-ended
They
on when we
actually-
notify them, or?
They sent the termination, it was August 2nd, and on the contract they sent, they wanted to terminate on the 3rd. We're, in our original agreement, it says that, I think it's 90 days. So I think we're within our rights to, we need to try to have the 2 days line up. So they
Right,
need to
that's what I was
stop
wondering.
collecting at midnight one night, so our new company can start the next morning, so that we don't have a separation of
Again.
them. So I think that we can, I know 911 billing said that we can change the dates. We'll just let them know and they'll send us the new one. So I'm sure the same is true for Acumet.
Just keep in touch with Nick. If he gets everything ironed out and you have it ready, call Bruce or I, either one, whichever one of us is close, we'll stop up and sign it. If it's after Monday, you get hold of Jim.
Can I have a contract to the auditor?
Yeah, she'll need the contract, the auditor. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Sheila.
You're up, Randy. We skipped over you.
Oh,
Forgot Jim was on vacation, didn't
yeah, I didn't remember that.
you? Yeah.
I need somebody come in the office before the getting ready leaves. Okay.
Those came in the mail today.
Updates and, you can send you yours.
It is warm in here.
Stuffy.
And then, well, we have, should be, bids for, Melcher Bridge too. Did we get any of those?
Yeah, one, it is Coloma Excavating LLC. Bid amounts $316,800.
Okay.
Sorry, what was that again?
$316,800.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I have 2 out-of-cycle checks. One of them is from Milestone Contractors in the amount of $350,000, $184.19. That's for Community Crossing Grant 2022-2. They done 200 north, 275 north, and 1200 north. And the other one is VS Engineering in the amount of $8,125. And that's for bridge plan for the Melcher Bridge.
If you got those in mind, go ahead.
I make a motion to approve the out-of-cycle checks, one to Milestone for $350,184.19 for the community crossing grant, and the one to VS Engineering for plans for $8,125.
I'll second that.
We've got 5 short full payment chip and seals to do yet. I hope to get them done this week. Then I'd like to start paving on Coloma Road, 600 south, 75 west, and 900 south the following week.
900 south, east of 59.
No, west, between 59 and 550
Okay.
east.
And who are you talking? Yeah, I
550
know who you're
east.
talking about now.
Okay? And starting Monday, we're going to replace that large culvert between the 2 lakes there, the conservation lakes, east of Marshall Road, there east of Rockville Lake, down that first dip. I got a new structure ordered, and should be delivered Monday or Tuesday. It's a 13-foot, 11-foot, or 13-foot, 11-inch span, 9.5-foot rise. And it'll be a little shorter, but we're putting wing walls on it, head walls. It's going to have ribs on it, so it'll make it a little stouter too. And that is the amount of $81,690.24. We do get free assembly with it, so take advantage of that while it
Yeah.
And I think that's all I have.
I think I may have one or two things.
I got one real quick.
On the agenda.
I had a call from somebody, Collins Road through to Dusty Lane down to Marietta's house. They said the brush is getting really, really bad through
Yeah,
that
it
area.
is, and I've got it on the list.
Okay, just so you got, and I told them, I
I don't know
said,
where it's at on the
I
list.
said, depending upon what they're doing, if they're laying asphalt or whatever, I said, but whenever they get a chance, I'll at least get on the list. And so we were talking earlier with the buses starting up this week, we're probably gonna get a lot of this
Yeah, I
from the
imagine.
standpoint of
I imagine.
people calling and saying the bus can't get through here
We,
and there, so.
We got, east of Billy Creek Bridge done, down to 36, and a little short strip of, that's an extension of New Discovery, I thought, but it's got a different name, I guess.
I saw them down there at Belly Creek a
Yeah.
few days ago, so I knew
That
that.
was,
As long as it's on your list, that's all I told them. I said, we'll get on the list and do it when we can.
And I had two things too for you. One was High Banks Road, it's grown over so
okay.
on the west side of it that when you meet somebody, I know a school bus is gonna dang near break a window out. It's a short section through there, but it's on.
Okay.
It's right before you get to Roseville Road. And then I had the fella that called me back. I had talked to you a couple weeks ago, and you was on your way over around 1,200 on that cost share that need done. You said I'm heading over towards Lena now. I'll check on it. You was going the day I talked to you, and I didn't know what you'd come up with on looking at that section of 1,200 with that cost share. I need to call the fella back and see what your opinion was on it.
Cost share on 1,200.
Yeah, it's, fella's name slipped my mind now. If nothing else, I'll text it to you when
Okay.
it comes to me. It might be 3 in the morning, but I'll sit up in bed. It may even be in my head and I'll send you a text.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
All right. Also, I need you to stick around for a minute here. I think we're about ready. Did you have anything else?
No.
Okay. All right, then we will move on to, have a couple on the agenda here on the public comments. One is Town of Rockville for the Bicentennial Committee. Is anyone here for that?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think they just want approval to put the sign on.
Okay, they're wanting to put a banner on the courthouse lawn during the year of 2024
For their bicentennial.
for the town's bicentennial.
I think they want to leave it up all year.
I don't
It says-
know without anybody, it
Let's-
just says for the year,
And then it says in
or during
the
the year.
body of the email that if there's a Main Street event going on, they'll take it down
Take
and,
it down.
you know,
It looks like it's going to be up all year.
that's what they're asking.
You want to table it to the next meeting?
Yeah.
Hopefully somebody will come and explain to us, maybe if they get on the agenda again, ask them if they'll please come and,
Nick, does Mandy usually come to the town board meetings?
Yeah.
okay.
Would you mind
You
just
might
Yeah, I can ask her.
to her to contact us so
You
we
just
just
kinda
get
wanna know.
clarification of what's going on?
Yeah, I can do that.
Location and where, we really don't have much of an objection, just when it's gonna come down and when it's not. And,
Jeremy, go.
Don Daniels. You're up.
I appreciate your allowing me to be here. I'm not going to tell you anything that you haven't heard before, but as an example, there's nobody in the courthouse, there's nobody in this building that came forth that said that they was able to, for me to transport the pictures that I wanted to talk about so that you could see what I was talking about. But I'm here, believe me, I'm here because I think we have a major problem, and I think that the solution starts here. From everybody that I spoke to, everybody that knows anything at all. My name is Don Daniels. I was born in Montezuma, Indiana. I have been gone for almost 70 years. I came back home, and I'm attending a church in Coloma. And I was totally amazed. I found out in talking with a lot of people in the neighborhood that that road has not been maintained for over 30 years. It is so bad that the Amish people won't even run their horses on it. Now that's getting pretty bad. But the point being made is that I know and I understand projected budgets, I understand budgets, I understand all of the priorities, I understand all those things. But I also know that when a bridge goes down, we find the money to fix it. And I'm asking, as nice as I know how, somebody needs to go out there and look at that road. Now, I went by Mr. Norman's office. Mr. Norman's been shorthanded. He's been working every day himself. And so consequently, I have not had a chance to talk to him personally. But I left a message and I went back twice and nobody knew whether or not he had a chance to examine or not. So I'm going to have to depend upon my pictures, and you're going to have to maybe have somebody go look at it. There's two bridges on Midway Road. The first bridge coming off of Midway, the stationary or foundation piers from that bridge is bare to the bottom and is going to be washed away very soon. The second bridge is not as bad, but both of them need attention. The shrubbery and the weeds are right 2 feet off of the highway, off of the road. Limbs are hanging over the road. And I understand, I really do. I was involved for years and years with road development and maintenance. But the point being made is this. In just a short time, there's gonna be 1.5 million people in Rockville and everywhere else, and they'll be wanting to go look at the covered bridges. There are 4 covered bridges, and it's always the same story. Well, we don't have the money. Well, we can't do this. Well, we can't do that. The bridges are deplorable, and I know about the Covered Bridge Committee, I understand. But the bridges are deplorable, but the roads are just as deplorable. So consequently, I am asking for you to look at an emergency situation, not only because of the roads, but because of the trees, because of the brush, and because of the washing away of one bridge. I really think that this committee could, if they wanted to, say, hey, we're going to do something about this. Hopefully, it happens. The other thing, and I appreciate your time, is the fact that I don't understand how a road in the county could get so deplorable that horses won't even walk on it.
Okay, start with Randy's here, that's why I asked him to stay.
You, Mr. Norman?
Yeah.
And also,
Mr. Norman, I appreciate it. I hadn't had a chance to meet you. I'm sure you know that I've been by your place.
Yeah.
which bridge is he talking about?
I don't remember the number, I was right down there, just past the church on Midway Road. That's the worst one. And we're gonna put some riprap down there.
Is it just scouring, is that what it is?
Yeah, well, the bridge got other issues too, but the scour's worst, I'm pretty
It's-
sure. I was just meeting with him earlier today.
Okay, there's the bridge inspector right beside you too, so I'm sure he's already looked at it also. I'm sure they have been down there, and they can tell you what
As
they...
far as the
The rip,
roads, Coloma Road, we've got it scheduled to pave, well, probably in a couple weeks.
good for you.
Midway Road, we got it on the list for next year.
Is what?
It's on the list for next year.
That's the problem. On the list for next year.
Well, we're gonna do it next year.
You're gonna have 100, you're gonna have 1.5 million people. It's like anything
Not on
else.
that road.
It's like you're going to have one discontented customer can close down a restaurant because everybody hears him. Those like you, Mr. Norman, that are working night and day to try to fit yourself within a budget, I understand what you're saying, but I know that nobody knows how much you're working.
Yeah, but we don't have much of a budget. I mean, when the budget's gone, there's no, I can't just treat the county like a bank, say, I need more money. I mean, there's no more money there to give.
In the last 2 years, it's now costing between $170,000 and $200,000 a mile to blacktop 1 mile.
Now, I know. I've been in general contract and road building for.
And when we've
50
got the
years.
size budget we've got for the size county and the size taxpayers, you're limited on what you do. You just can't pull it out of the air. It's-
We can do around 8 miles a year.
I-
8 miles. How many, you know how many miles we have?
I didn't have time to actually explore that,
730.
but I know that you've got,
We've got almost 800 miles of road. Of that, about 400 is paved. We can do 8 miles a year. So even if you do a 10-year cycle, that's 80 miles. You still got 320 miles.
That's
you can't
20%
get
of
to.
the total.
So when you say 30 years sounds like a lot of time, yes, it is. And we wish we didn't have that. But, you know, I hear people tell me all the time, you always say it's all about the money. Well, it is all about the money.
oh, I know.
If I go to your house and I go around and I look at all the stuff that needs to be done to your house, and I sit there and say, well, how come you don't have a new roof? How come you do? Your first response is going to say, I don't have the money to do that right now. Well, it's the same thing with the county. We just can't magically make money like the federal government does. We have to live within our budget, and we have to prioritize. And Dan will tell you, Randy will tell you, we drive these roads all the time looking for the worst roads. And we put them in an order of these are the worst roads. And we try the best we can to keep those. And as Randy mentioned, we realize it is a road that needs to be taken care of. But next year is when it's going to be done. So it's a few more months that people are just going to have to deal with where it's at right now.
And when he told you next year, he's not just telling you that, it's already on the list. We have to have them on the list to even apply for the money from the state. It's on the list. So if they give us some money, that will be one of the roads that gets done next year. It just is what it is.
I appreciate your comments, and I really sympathize with Mr. Norman. But I'm an old man, and you've heard this 1,000 times. But if a tree falls across that road, county's going to remove it.
Yep.
Immediately. I know from my research and due diligence that you not only have an emergency fund, but you have a rainy day fund, and you have funds that are set aside that are not already printed in on the budget. Now,
The rainy day fund is depleted, and when he came in the other day, I explained that to him, that it's
now I
sitting down to
understand.
zero.
I've got it right here. She did a very good job of explaining it. I understand. I understand exactly what she was trying to tell me. But the representatives in Indianapolis, they don't know anything about it. The representatives for the state highway, the county, don't know anything about it. You have to deal with the county. Well, I understand all those, but I also know that when the snow gets 8 inches and somebody cannot drive on that road, I will almost guarantee you that there's certain people that get their road done regardless.
No, I don't think.
I've been involved in road building for, like I said, 50 years, but I do appreciate your comments. I'm very honest, and I don't want to leave here thinking for one moment that I am an adversary to the county. I'm not. I'm just bringing forth a problem, and I know that the solving of that problem starts here.
They're like plowing snow. We get all the blacktops first. Then we go to the gravel roads. Well, if I have manpower, I got graders on the gravel roads while they're doing the blacktops. But you gotta make a way for them to go once they get out. I mean, a lot of people got four-wheel drives now, they can travel in 10, 12 inches of snow. So if we get the main roads cleared, the blacktops, then they can go somewhere. They can get out with four-wheel drive. And then we're working on the gravel roads too. It takes time and it takes money.
I understand. I do appreciate you allowing me to make my comments, and I hope that maybe you think about it again, because I would like to see something done on both of those roads way before next year, because what happens if you spend the money before we get there, it's going to be then another year, as it has been now for 30 years.
What Randy told you is so. Bruce and I, Jim and Randy, we drive every road and we prioritize them, which ones are the worst, and sometimes it's even hard for us to decide which ones are the worst, and we have a limited amount of funds. Just to give you, for instance, about the same miles of roads, Hamilton County, they had $26 million to work with year before last. We had $6 million. There's more votes there. It is what it is. We have to work with what we get. And the bridge inspector, like I say, is sitting beside you. And if he's aware of the bridge, and Randy said that was going to do some scour
I'm sure
protection.
both of these people are very much aware
Yes.
of what it is.
But
But they cannot untie the budget because of the way that it's constructed. But I would imagine that they're very frustrated.
and we as commissioners do not have any control over the budget either. It's the council that holds the purse strings. It's not the commissioners. We're actually over the physical property the county owns. The budget comes from the council. So I understand your frustrations, and if Randy told you that they were doing Coloma Road this year and Midway next year, I fully trust
I want to
him.
make
That's-
one more comment if you mind. I do not know. I tried to find out at the courthouse, but I could not. Do you have in Rockville or in the Parke County a hazardous ordinance? There's some trailers that are on that road that honestly need to be removed. Now, I don't know.
The building inspector.
I don't know why, I mean, hazardous health issues. I mean, it just continues.
Yeah.
Shared
There-
site people.
In Parke County, it's a very difficult process, and Nick will tell you that there is a process. Matter of fact, there's property out towards Belmore that we've been trying for a number of years to take care of, but it's very difficult. We don't have in Parke County, like some counties do, and some of the big cities do, building inspectors or health inspectors where they can do certain things to force people to try to clean things up. I think even maybe the town of Rockville has some kind of but that's just Rockville, that's not Parke County, and so it's difficult. Yeah, there are lots and lots of properties if you drive around Parke County that need to be cleaned up or need to be leveled or need to
Can you
be.
not pass an ordinance to do that?
We can pass an ordinance, but if we had to turn around and hire everybody else we needed to fill those positions, and that's that much less money we have to go elsewhere on the roads and bridges and brush and everything else. It's like Bruce was explaining, we're limited on funds, so we do what we think is the most important to try to keep going.
I think.
We're not Hamilton County, we're not Carmel, we're
I
second
think
poorest,
we
we're the
get-
second poorest county in the state, so that gives you an idea of what we're dealing with here.
Well, I'm going to continue to work with you. I definitely would be more than glad to join hands, but I'm going to do everything I can to see where I can find the money through all of the state's mirage, if you want to call it that, because they seemingly have enough money to do what they want to do. And so I'm saying, okay, then Parke County has the right to have enough money to do what they need to do.
Well, and I wish the state looked at it that way, but they don't, and
Yeah.
our hands kind of tied, and we pick every year what we think's the worst and what needs done, that's what we're trying. And I appreciate your concern, and like I say, I'm sure Randy said he was out there and looked at it, I feel comfortable he was. He was
Just
aware of what you was.
just a couple things. I mean, I worked for the state for 33 years, and I can tell you that the people in Indianapolis, those representatives, those senators that you mentioned earlier, don't care about Parke County at all.
But that's going to
They
change.
care about
I agree.
Carmel and Indianapolis and Fort Wayne and on and on. We get very little acknowledgement from our state General Assembly. But second of all, we appreciate any citizen coming in and giving any suggestions. So I encourage you to continue to do what you can do, and if you can help us, help this county, we appreciate that. So don't think we're, just because I'm not saying we're telling you no on things. I'm just saying, you know, we're giving you our explanations, but with that being said, we'll take any assistance we can. So please, don't be afraid to come to us and give us some ideas that you think might help, and we'll research and see if we can get it done. And so thank you for being here.
Will you generally work through your attorney?
Not really.
Or through somebody you might suggest?
I mean, this is usually the format to come to. I
Okay.
mean, we can only do things at a public meeting. We can't do things
Oh, I know that.
secretly or behind closed doors or anything like that. So these are the kind of meetings that you just need to come to. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
There was a comment before about the health program. I've got some stuff here that calls that Health First Indiana. I'm not sure if they
Yeah, I think that means
official name or not.
John was wondering, so
Yeah, Health First Indiana is the name that's on there.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Pam? No, Cindy,
Yeah, I have something for you guys if you're ready.
we are.
There was an email sent to commissioners in the middle of July, and I think it's just something you're probably not used to seeing and having to respond to, from Okra.
I'll call you, Randy, and give you a guys. Okay, thanks.
So Okra has the Next Level Connections grant, which is the broadband money that providers can apply for. And we've repeatedly told them we just don't feel like we've had good maps of the people that are served and not served by broadband. So they've really taken a lot of effort to go in and create a list by address of the people in Parke County, and not just Parke County, but they've sent you the list of people in Parke County that, from what they've been able to glean, that are served or underserved. So they've asked two things of you as commissioners. I just by chance happened to run across this program, running into somebody that I worked with through on other broadband projects. He mentions this list. I did a little research as how I have a copy of this email, just trying to get it. So the thing that they asked for, and I highlighted on your copy, is to just fill out a very simple form. It's on the second page there of who you would want to utilize in Parke County to kind of be that address person to go through the list of 2,000 plus addresses and figure out if it's right. Who are we missing? You know, people we may have heard from that are indicating that they don't have service. Make sure those addresses are on the list. Work along with internet providers to see if they see discrepancies in the list that the state's provided. The review of that list in this email states that they would like to have that back by September 15th. But the other form of who they work with, they wanted to do in the middle of July. So I just got this today. I don't mean to just drop it in your lap, but I finally got this today.
I don't remember getting this, but
I don't either.
I get so many emails that
Well-
I probably did, and I didn't realize what it was, but.
Yeah, that's why
With
I
that-
figured it was just overlooked in the sense that you're not used to responding to grant emails.
No. With that being said, I mean, you got any ideas besides yourself? Because I know you're very, very busy with many other things that we
Not
could
me.
use as somebody
Yeah.
to do this.
As much as it doesn't sound like a lot of fun, I probably am the person just because I have been designated in your other resolution as the point of contact for the broadband ready community. And I can try to pull in my other committee members to assist, I think, with this review, since we have about a month to go through it.
I've started looking through it today. And then really just trying to reach out to a provider to partner with us to do their review as well.
Seemed like when we originally signed that agreement with, was it Bloomingdale Bell, Joint, maybe some of them?
Yeah, so that was the previous round in round
Which they
3.
were supposed to reach out, so the hardest to get to places first and then come back and pick up.
It probably wasn't the hardest to reach places. So they were going to, they had to look at where they had fiber and see where it made sense and then put together a bid. They sent that to the state and then the state supplemented the cost.
Yeah.
But it wasn't necessarily the hardest to reach.
It was, I do remember, not necessarily the hardest ones, but people that had less access to any type of internet, because when I discussed it with Joint and Bloomingdale Bell, when they was in here, we went through the maps, they was targeting those certain areas, and they had to take a line to them to get to them, and then they could come back with drops and pick up off of that.
Yeah, so
I distinctly remember that.
yeah, so the eligible addresses were set by the state, and
Yes.
that's the type of addresses that
Yes.
are on this list. What we made them commit to is anybody they
Ineligible.
passed, they had to connect.
Come back,
That
yeah.
was the
Okay.
key thing. But yes, the addresses that they originally served had to be considered underserved or unserved
Yes. Okay.
for that grant, yeah. And this is the same scenario. So in this listing, we still have close to 3,000 addresses that we're saying are still under or unserved.
Underserviced.
Yeah.
All right. I hate to see you take on more than you can handle. I'm sure you have a full plate now. If you feel comfortable with it, I'm fine with it. but-
I don't have an alternative
Okay.
to offer you.
Now, that's what I asked.
That's the long and short of it there.
Do you think you will get help if you reach out and ask to?
Well, she said she had a committee member.
Yeah, I think there's a couple people that have been on the committee that are willing to jump in and help
Okay.
us, so. But what I would need for you guys to do is, the form that's on the back there, that would need to be completed, and submitted. I mean, I'm happy to complete it, but I think it needs to come from one of you guys back to the state to say, here's what we're gonna do.
I don't mind filling this out. I'll get
Okay.
with you, not today, but I'll
Yeah.
call you tomorrow or something.
Yeah, and it should, if you go back
Get
in your
all your
email,
information.
should be that July 12th, yeah, to go back and get the original form and everything,
Yeah,
so,
I'll go back to that date and see if
Okay.
I've got it.
yeah, I'll be in the office
Fine,
and
Dan, I'll
Okay,
just go ahead and
that's
fill
fine.
this form out and we'll get it sent to the
Thank you.
state then.
I just don't want us to lose the opportunity, because
No,
doing
yes.
this address list, what it does is, as they continue to take applications for funding, if we can indicate, as we scrub the list, that these are priority addresses, they're gonna change the rules for providers if they bid on these priority addresses, so I'm hoping that allows us to get more of them.
More people hooked up for less money that
Yes,
normally wouldn't be able to. And I appreciate it very much. We do appreciate everything you do.
all right, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy, very much.
Anything else?
Yes, Alice and I have been longtime residents of Bridgeton for 37 years, and we're here to find out, haven't heard a meeting about what's going on with the closing. So for me to understand what's going on, I'd like to hear what your plans are for that, because it's going to affect me dearly, one way or the other. Whether you close it off at our end, or whether you close it off halfway in the middle of town. And I got a few other questions afterwards too.
We put a rough plan together. Sheriff just left. He's actually been working on funding for some extra deputies to basically block off with vehicles so they can move a vehicle out of the way and let ambulance through, fire trucks, whatever they need, instead of just solid barricades. Nothing's set in stone yet. What we was going to do is if he comes up with the funding. Hopefully by next week, we'll be able to have another meeting and put out exactly what we think will work.
Do you have an idea of where you're gonna close the road? That's my concern right there. Because I've already got vendors who's heard through the grapevine that it's gonna be closed halfway, and they've dropped out already. So, you know, it's just a scare that's going on, so I need to know to prepare. I've got 2 months left in order to make up the funding that I'm gonna be losing on either the parking lot or the vendors. So,
And will this be an open to the public meeting, or will this be another committee meeting?
We'll probably get with everybody and tell them what has been, basically what's been decided. We're not gonna leave everybody in the dark.
So it's not gonna
We
be-
can have a public meeting so everybody knows what has been decided.
so a few people are gonna decide on what goes on with the whole town.
Commissioners.
Okay, let me ask you this. Are you thinking of any other ways to help out the community to make up the difference, like maybe bathroom facilities? Are you guys gonna do anything about that?
I don't think anything had changed there. It's, I mean, the sheriff's department's struggling now to make sure they got to come up with enough money to even pay for the security to.
Okay, so all these people that are gonna be getting parking lots further out in and get more parking in there, they're gonna benefit from this than anybody else.
As far as where?
As parking, either your end, the Hawkinses, maybe expand on out. The Hawkinses across the road, they're gonna have to expand further out because you're gonna have a mass amount of people coming in, and if you got the roads blocked off, where are they gonna turn around and where they all gonna park at? Because a lot of them just drive through town, and like I got campers who come in town. They leave at 6 o'clock in the morning to get there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. If they come in and come up to the bridge, and then they got their camper and their car behind them, and they gotta turn around and go back around Jeffrey Ford's bridge, and not be able to get in until after 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Do they come in to camp for the whole 10 days, or are you just talking about a day or two camp?
They come into camp for 4 days.
For 4 days?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have people who come and camp for a few days.
I can
Most of
tell,
them stay 5 days.
I can tell you this, if they're coming in from the north end of town, and they're coming in the middle of the week, or coming when the Bridge Festival's already started,
Yeah.
it's quicker to go Jeffers Ford to get the south end of town than it is to go through all the people with camp.
We understand that.
Yeah, we do.
We understand that. But you haven't got the word out to everybody, this 1.5 million people that's coming into town.
Yes, I understand that. And Celia has put some stuff out there. I know she's talked to some people and some of her vendors. We talked to some, but as far as parking lots, I'm not for sure any parking lot that will be affected other than them not be able to come straight through town. It's not going to close any of the parking lots. What we basically discussed is probably not the middle of town, it's probably gonna be the end of town, but leave you enough room that you can get campers in and out.
Okay, but I've got a parking lot there too that I generate
Yep.
a good bit of money off of it.
Well, once again, you said you talked to Celia and her vendors, but that's
No,
not.
I said Celia, I know, has already mentioned to her vendors that, hey, the road may be closed. She hadn't told them anything because nothing's
Right.
set in stone. I'm just saying, she come to me and told me that she has already warned her vendors that there's a possibility that the road's gonna be closed this year. Not exactly how it's worked out, but be prepared to get your product shipped to you. I have talked to FedEx, I've talked to UPS, I've talked to 2 of the major trucking companies that come and make deliveries. Fact is, I talked to one today before the meeting, and he told me that they really prefer not coming through town anyway during the busiest part.
But they come they make deliveries 2-3 times a day.
And FedEx and UPS are aware that if they do it, they will be stopping somewhere and using a side-by-side to make the deliveries. They are aware of that and okay with it.
Okay, but you agree that the parking lots are gonna be filled up more than what they have?
I don't know.
With people not driving through town?
I guess I don't really understand how they would be more full than they If we have the same amount of parking lots, I don't understand, are we having more people coming?
Well, if you're shutting it off in town, you know, there's several people like J.D. Brown parks cars, Chris Sanquinetti has cars in her lot.
Yeah.
Howard, who used to be Howard, but his name's Fred, his parking lot.
But it would be Main Street, none of the side streets would be closed so they could get to J.D. Brown's. There's only one person I know of that parked that this is affected, and I talked to him over the weekend. And that's Carol Greenley's nephew, and he has already rented space for,
And he's uptown.
he's right in
He's
town.
right, or he's right next
He's
to
the one that it really affected. I can't
Carol
say
Greenley's.
nephew.
Okay.
And I will say there was one other person that it affected, which is Nick's father-in-law, Joe Hawkins. It closes one of his parking lots down, the small one, which is one of the high dollar paying parking lots, but he is more satisfied if it's for public safety, then so be it.
Well, I'm looking after public safety because I warned at the Covered Bridge Festival, our group there in Bridgeton, the BCBA, probably 25 years ago when Bart was doing it, that we need to do something about the road. Nobody wanted to take that project on. But my viewpoint is that back road that goes along the fire department, I know it's a skinny road, but I think what you ought to do, just throwing it out there as an opinion, I think anybody who's got a parking lot on the outskirts or whatever, if you could have them say, have a set price, everybody charge the same amount, because you got a war going on over dollars, and the parking lots would not be there if it would not be for all the vendors in the festival going on. Why should they benefit 100% of that money when you could generate money to fix the town up with wider streets? You say we're broke, well, there's no way to get no money, but if you put a $10 limit on cars, which people will pay.
You want to pay it.
And you take $3 out of that $10 and throw it into the community for bathrooms, which they spend $37,000 easily on portlets.
That was tried with PCI. Everybody used to have to pay for 10%.
30 years ago.
30 years ago, they paid 10%
30 years ago,
commission.
before the
What I'm
TML
telling
came
you
in.
is-
Right, before the TML. They did away with the 10% commission because people were not paying their 10% commission. And then people quit paying the 10% commission, and then they started implementing the TMLs.
But I can't tell, as a commissioner, I can't tell somebody what to do with their parking lot. I can't tell them how much to charge. People that own property, I can't tell.
No, you
No,
can't.
you can't tell them, but you can tell them
You
that you're
can't.
shutting off the road.
You can't tell them, but you can suggest to them and bring it up to them, and for the benefit of the community. Benefit of the community. Nobody's going to benefit it from it and the community, because you need wider sidewalks. You need to, and it wouldn't take much, Dan,
Public safety.
to fill up the side streets with filled dirt, whatever, to
Public
build up the
safety.
roads for public
You say
safety.
it wouldn't take much, but you look at our road right of way, we don't even own that much right of way, the county don't. Is everybody gonna give us their whole front yard so we can pour sidewalks for 10 days out of the year?
We're not gonna have to pour a sidewalk, all you gotta do is fill it in with dirt and the only bad place is mine, is probably Yaki's and mine. You know where Bill Yaki used to
I
live?
know exactly where you're talking
Okay,
about.
that is a low-lying area.
And you take
You take that,
Bill Myers's,
Bill
you
Myers,
do that, you took half his property.
no, you're only gonna go the same distance, you're only gonna go 10 feet over.
I know,
That's all you gotta do. And his vendors are not right up on the sidewalk.
pretty darn close. I
Yeah,
went by
well
there
then,
a while ago. Because county right of way is not 10 feet off of that.
okay, well, as far as my property goes, yeah, that'd take a lot to fill in that little spot, but that would be a walkway for people,
And I have
and I have no problem with it.
I have no objections. You said you park cars. I have no objections if you want to get with every other parking lot in Bridgeton, suggest it to them. They all get on the same page, the same price. We can't control that as commissioners. We can't tell anyone what they can do with their property. We can tell them if you're going to sell something in them 10 days, you have to have a TML.
But you can tell everybody that you're gonna shut the road down.
We are in
and-
control of the roads.
They
We're
own
not
the
controlling
roads.
your
They
property.
don't own the private property. The roads are owned by the county.
And it's public safety, whether you park cars and charge an extra $3 and donate it, Yeah, I see no problem with that, but we can't tell you you have to do that or anything else. You're just like if you want to rent your house out and you want to charge $1,000 a night, if you can get it, more power to you. We can't come in as commissioner and say you want to charge $100 during the festival.
I understand that.
We're only in control over the roads and public safety, and that's the only goal.
But,
that's the only goal we have in line here.
But as a county commissioner, you could talk to the people a lot better than just an individual like me who go up and
You've
talk to
seen
them.
how that went when I had the public meeting.
Oh, I seen how that goes, but you know,
It's-
people was furious because first of all, you closed down the road and that was just a total shock to everybody. Because
Because you already had your mind made up before asking them. I mean, it was
just
kind of like
it
you
was-
told them this is what we're doing.
This is what we're planning.
This is what we're doing.
For
Not,
public
this is
safety.
what we want to do. What is your suggestion? This is,
Oh, we
instead
had
of
to
this is
meet-
what we're gonna do.
We had the meeting asking for suggestions, and it turned into a dog and pony show, so.
Yeah.
Well,
And I won't tolerate
Did
it.
you expect anything less than
Kinda
that?
not, we're not,
Out
we're
of half
asking
the
for
people
suggestions
know, but
because
they
you already
already
have
have
your mind made
choice.
up.
So, and I have no problem if you want to get with the other guys that have parking lots and make some suggestions. I really don't, but for me to go to them and say, hey, I think you ought to raise your price and donate part of the money.
Be a suggestion of some sort.
Yeah.
We have no money in that community.
And it is an unincorporated town. It's owned by the county, and
The roads are
what we're looking
the
at
county, not
here.
the private property.
What we're looking at here is public safety. We don't want anybody hurt. The last thing I want on my plate, Steve, is some little kid getting run over.
Well, Dan, we don't want to
And
either.
me know
Yeah.
that there's a problem there and not have done anything about it.
Well, I'm glad you're taking it on.
Problem.
I'm glad you're taking it on.
Yeah, we
because
suggested this
it-
30
it-
years ago.
it
when
needs-
Vince
it
Boone
needs
was
to be-
there
it
and all the
definitely
other
needs to
guys
be
were
done.
there.
But when
Yeah.
and I don't want to do anything in the process of hurting anybody's business or taking any money away from them. The more you can make, the more power to you. It's more taxes for the county. I appreciate that part of it. That's why we're trying to do it to affect the least amount of people as possible. But I'm looking first at public safety, then second, I look at everything else.
Okay, well,
There's
okay.
going to be some people mad no matter what. Some people just, I guess, hate to live. You know, they just hate people and hate to live.
Well, they're gonna
grouchy all the
they're gonna
time.
disagree with you
And
no matter
yeah,
what you
no matter
suggest
what I
anyway.
do, it's
Well,
wrong. So I
I-
really don't. I'm going to do what's best for the public.
Well, I've told you once before that my suggestion is close it off at the end of town. Don't close it off halfway, because if you close it off in George Street, I'm telling you, close it off George Street, every single vendor that's past that point is gonna drag
No,
out the feet.
I don't think it will be there. What we've actually discussed is more down towards the end of town and over by Hawkins Road and the north side of Bridgeton. It's kind of what we've discussed. That's where we noticed the worst flow of traffic. And right across from the firehouse where that's set up, I can guarantee you, time after time during the day, there's someone with road rage. They're laying on the horn. Somebody's going up and banging their mirror, knocking their mirror around. It's a matter of time until somebody starts running over people. If you drive 2.5, 3 hours to a festival and you know there's going to be 50,000 people there, if you can't wait an extra half hour to find a parking place or you have to drive 2 miles around, you shouldn't have come. I'm not going to turn
You should have
around.
stayed home.
I'm not going to turn around and go back home. I'm going to take my time. If it was something I really wanted to go to, I waited 2.5 hours in line. I went to a gas engine show in Tennessee and waited 2.5 hours to get off the highway to get parked.
Well, that's what happens there in
It is
Bridgeton,
what it is.
it
Deal with
is a 2-hour wait,
Yeah.
sometimes 3 off the highway.
I'm not disagreeing with you on this stuff. I'm just trying to tell you that it's not Bruce and I and Jim's place to try to tell people what to do with their personal
Well,
property.
I totally understand that.
And I understand where you're coming from. It would help out a lot, but that's not us. That's not up to us to try to sway people to
delegate.
charge more money and give it to. And it's a little bit hard to donate money to the county that way and earmark it for something. Nick will tell you that.
Oh, I
Certain
wouldn't
money
even
has to
donate
go
it to
in
the
general accounts, and there isn't a darn thing you can do about it. It may pay insurance for the employees.
I'd be bringing that, I wouldn't be giving that to the county,
Well-
I'd be giving it to the BCBA,
And-
then
and
they can do what they need to do.
And that's what I'm saying, there's already something going there, so why don't you get with them and say, hey, let's try to put something together and have a meeting and get everybody together and see what we can do to benefit. We're more than happy to
You know how
help
small,
out what we can, but you know how it is, just like I was telling
You know how
Fellow,
small that group is.
we're short on money, I know, and everyone is, but we're doing the best we can, and we're gonna try something. If it don't work, we'll have another meeting, we'll tweak it, see what will make it work. But yes, our plan is probably if we do it both ends of town and Hawkins Road where the worst of the traffic is. But am I gonna block you off? No, I'm not gonna block you off. I'm not blocking Browns off. We'll probably block those side streets off right off Main Street. So if they go around the Browns and want to camp there for a couple nights, their friends, they can get in there and turn around and go right back out to side street. And I don't know if it's a good plan. It's gonna make my road busy as crazy, and I live on a gravel road. And-
Well, that road's busy already, Dan.
But in the past,
To be honest with
but in
you,
the past 45 years I've lived there, it's gotten worse and worse every year, and
and
it's
it's gonna
only
get
going to get
worse,
worse. Yes.
and it's gonna get worse with
Yeah.
Mansfield going downhill.
Yep.
And that's why we was so busy last year.
Yep.
And the thing is, you guys are uptown. I know you're in your booth. People cannot leave their booth. I see what goes on. I see the growth in our end town.
And
People, my vendors have gotten to the point where they do not complain about the crowd no more. They are happy with the crowd, and they like it that it's not as busy as it is uptown. Because uptown is like Mansfield was 30 years ago, where it's elbow to elbow.
I think if you'll give us some room and try it, we're going to try to work something out and try not to hurt anybody and try to
Well,
keep anybody from getting run over with a vehicle.
I just need to know when you're gonna have your next meeting and what your resolve is that you guys have come up with, so that you got 2 months left. So for me,
We understand you don't want to get out of
for
here.
me to make up my money that I'm gonna be losing off of a parking lot possibly, or I'm losing off of vendors, I have to come up with a way to either put more campers in.
The sheriff, by the end of the week, is supposed to, that's why I told him, I talked to him, told him later, is supposed to give me a decision on if he's come up with enough money or what he needs to, for deputies to take care of it, and within the next week or two, we'll have some answers.
Well, we know that they're looking for more people for these 3 other spots. We know that they're looking for people to man
those
these
spots.
3.
Yeah.
So we already know that.
You know you have a challenge
Whatever we
ahead.
have to do has to be done at a public meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So our next meeting is 2
2
weeks
weeks
from
from Monday, so
today.
there'll be a
Yeah.
decision made.
Whether we can make it that meeting, I guess that would be the hope, but if we can't get things put together by the meeting of 2 weeks from now, it's gonna have to be the next meeting, which would be the first meeting in September, so.
Which-
Well, the main thing is.
But it's gotta be done in a public meeting, whatever decision,
Yeah,
whether
we can't-
close or not close, it's not gonna be done privately, it'll be done today, or in a meeting just like this, hopefully in 2 weeks, if Justin
Well,
gets.
Because the final
Jason
say
gets
so is the
everything.
commissioners.
Yeah.
And they can blame us and however they want to do it, but we will be, and I plan on,
Oh,
Well, nobody likes surprises.
Yeah.
Nobody likes a surprise, and that's the way it looks like to me is I'm not gonna know anything on how to prepare or how to change my life around down there on my end of town.
I just told you.
Because I could do it.
I just told you everything we've discussed. We talked about down on, towards your end of town, closing it there with a car, not full barricades, a barricade on each side. Car parked crossways, a sheriff's car. The reason being is if someone gets hurt and an ambulance needs to get through, that car will be manned. You don't have to take a machine and
No.
move barricades out of the way. He moves the vehicle out of the way, they go through.
Yeah, you gotta make it simple.
We put together what we think will work by affecting the least amount of people. That's kind of the whole nut in the shell. We've been talking money, how much it's going to cost to man these locations, how many hours a day we're going to have to be paying them, where we're getting the money from. That's basically what we're trying to work out now. So the sheriff gets back with me. We have everything that's presented to the commissioners next month, 2 weeks from today. Then if everything's presented, the sheriff says, I've got everything I need, I've got the money, then we'll vote on it. And I'll have maps that pass out. You'll see exactly what we're talking about, but it's exactly what I told you. No one has ever said George Street as far as, since that meeting for the tank.
Well, that's the only thing I've heard. That's the only thing we've heard.
That's the only time it was ever mentioned was the tank.
Okay.
Was closed it at George Street.
And that's the only meeting we've been to.
The others has not really been meetings, they've just been kind of
A committee.
brainstorming, a committee, trying to figure out what would work best without affecting the least amount of people. So,
So have they said anything, oh, this has nothing to, this is, well, I was just gonna ask, another thing was that, are they gonna put up another cell phone tower down on the other end of town?
You have to ask the sheriff that.
Oh, okay.
And that cell phone tower is not for the public anyway.
Yeah.
People
Well,
drive, people
okay, so
drive
why-
down there and park in my son's yard, there'll be 20 people down there of a night thinking they're sending messages on their phone or running their transactions. That only works for the sheriff's department and the ambulance service, that's not a.
Well, it wiped out everybody else's cell phone
No,
tower.
all it is, it come out of Georgia, and that's paid for by a federal grant. It has what they call a black card you have to have in your phone. Your phone has to be programmed that. I don't see how it could wipe out anything. All it is doing is it's hooked to the sheriff's department's phone and the ambulance service and fire department.
Well, at 5 after 8 till 5 after 6, it wiped out everybody else's
It's
cell
on
phone.
24/7, so I don't think that's what wiped it out.
It did.
That's a tower for.
We did. Everybody else's cell phone did not work. Because I called.
And you may say
Yeah.
that, but I don't know how it could have been that tower that would have wiped it out, because it's only
Well,
it only has that few phones on. We haven't had good service anyway.
Well, I had physical therapy, but anyway, I had physical therapy, and I called Jim on Friday morning at 5 minutes after 8 when they had it hooked up, and I called Jim and I said, Jim, we didn't have any cell phone. My elderly neighbor had to come use my landline at 10 minutes after 8 to call the ambulance. And, because they needed an ambulance and they couldn't get through. And then they had to get the police officers to come down because they did not have any availability to use
And that's not
their
just,
cell
that's not
phone.
just one
And that was
instance.
not just one instance during the festival, that was the whole time. And they could use their landline and their I had a landline, but they could not use their cell phones during the day but anyone,
That's because of the other tower over by Mansfield is jammed. That tower could not jam anything.
no. The tower on Matt's property shut down everybody's cell phone.
And how would you know
I couldn't
which?
even use my cell phone, I could only use my landline.
How would you know that tower was what shut it down?
Because everybody else, even when I walked outdoors to use my cell phone, I couldn't even use my cell phone. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean to shut that tower, did it?
It would be involved in the tower.
I don't know.
We'll talk to the sheriff.
Yeah.
We'll
But
talk to
I called Jim Friday and asked him if he could check into it. But they did use, the first responders had to have a cell phone. So that I know that's why they had put it up there, which, they had to have it. But nobody else could use their cell phone at the time.
All right, well, our meeting in 2 weeks, hopefully we got an answer for you. Sheriff
Okay.
gives me an answer, then I'll give you an answer.
Okay, good
Just hold on
enough.
that, guys. Any other comments? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.